I'm not going to spend too much time on the business challenge, it's already been explained, but we are Ebiquity. We are a multinational team based out of London. We've got Patrik, myself, Miles, and Wojciech. So we want to take you through our analysis today, but before we start, there's kind of 3 key insights I'd like you to take out from this presentation. Firstly, Twitter is a viable early indicator of campaign performance. Media drives significant revenue within the PC market. And finally, Intel is a critical component of the advertising mix. So we had 24 hours to go from data to insights. The first step of this was the preparation. Reconcile joins across data sets, make sure that brands and time periods match. Ultimately, as this is a marketing effectiveness challenge, we believe that we should tie this back to sales, which required us to aggregate the data to monthly. Finally, we aggregated media by type. We said that TV is TV, press is press, and radio is radio. We didn't have the granularity in our models to be able to kind of look at these different types of like TV and press variables differently. In terms of transformations, we used fairly industry standard transformations. To capture the memory effect of advertising, we used ad stocks, and then we also applied diminishing returns on ad spend. We thought this was vitally important due to the high levels of expenditure around the back to college period, and then also in the build up to Christmas. In terms of training data, we withheld 6 months of data to evaluate the predictive power of the model. So we had a lot of options for the approach that we used to do this. But actually, we took a step back and said, we have a set of requirements that we want to fulfill. The first of those is that we wanted something with a proven track record, something that we know will work. We wanted something that was fast and iterable and scalable. This is the first time that we've ever looked at this data. We wanted the ability to make mistakes, to go into rabbit holes, and be able to get out of that quickly without losing too much time. And finally, as this was a business challenge, ultimately we wanted something that was commercially interpretable, something that would give actionable insights for Intel themselves. So the solution we went with was OLS standard linear regression with some box-constrained optimizations. This successfully fulfills all of the requirements that we have, but also what's good about this is very, very extensible. We have experience using this across many different sectors, many different industries, and this is kind of what we do in our day-to-day job. So our model does forecast very well. We got a 95.2% accuracy over the 6-month holdout period. In terms of predictable trends, there are trends in the market that are very predictable. So first, the market is actually relatively flat as a whole. There is a strong seasonal component, particularly around the back to college period and then in the build up to Christmas. AMD is in decline while Intel is in growth. And the desktop sales are kind of in a little bit of decline, laptop sales are in a little bit of growth, but ultimately these two kind of offset. So we think our forecast is stable over 2017, kind of holding everything else equal, but we know that we're susceptible to kind of changes in strategy and any market shocks. So we have a good forecast, but we think there are several avenues for further development. So we know that media cost seasonality exists. £1 spent in the build up to Christmas will not get you the same reach as £1 spent in June when media is cheaper. So if we move towards more kind of consumer-centric media measures such as GRPs or readership that capture this should help solve this problem. Secondly, brand health indicators are vitally important for brands. However, due to the granularity of data we had, we found it quite difficult to be able to correlate these directly in our revenue models. But if we increase the sales and media data granularity to weekly, we think we'll be able to get much deeper and richer insights. We are modeling revenue, so we are susceptible to changes in inflation or pricing strategies. But if we can get some SKU level data, we can calculate price indices and build these into the models, and ultimately account for inflation as well. Consumer preferences will have an effect, so competing categories such as tablets or mobiles. But if we incorporate data on these, we can capture the effects and adjust accordingly. Finally, the content of a tweet is relevant to its impact. So in the data we were provided, we had tweets by day. But if we have kind of more granular information, if we have the content of those tweets, then this will deliver much more value as we can break up both positive and negative sentiments and look at the trends in each of those. So we used a kind of nested model structure to further develop the insights. So we started with advertising expenditure. We modeled the direct effects on Twitter conversations and PC sales. From our Twitter model, we found a positive impact from ad spend on conversations. And then from our revenue model, where we got our forecast, we were able to measure the incremental media sales effect. We didn't model a direct effect from Twitter conversations onto PC sales, but due to the way that advertising works, we know there is an inherent link in there. If we look at the consumer purchase funnel, you spend some money on advertising. Your advertising ultimately drives awareness, awareness drives consideration, and then in the end, consideration drives purchase. From our positive effect that we found in our model, we're suggesting that there's a viability to use Twitter as an early indicator of your campaign performance. If you spend money on TV and you're not seeing movements in your Twitter activity, it's likely that you want to go back, perhaps do some analysis and reconsider how your campaign is being deployed. This would require a bit more analytics. You need to develop some benchmarks and baselines, but once those are in place, if you're not moving the dial relative to the baseline, it's time to reconsider. Finally, looking at the kind of direct effects from media, if we take total category revenue and start to break that down, so 88% is delivered by non-marketing elements. 12% is delivered by media, and this is media in total here. If we kind of break that down a bit further, so 68% of media sales come from manufacturer advertising, so Dell, for instance. Then 20% of incremental media revenue comes from the processor advertising, so Intel and AMD. But then also there's this multiplicative effect. So there is gains from advertising both together. So I'm Dell, I advertise my PC. As part of my advert, I might have the Intel tag somewhere, or I might say powered by Intel. When Intel then ultimately advertised, the consumer will be able to make that brand linkage in their head and go, oh, I'm in the market for PC. I saw a Dell PC. And then that will kind of, that's what delivers the multiplicative effect, which is incremental to actually both the manufacturers and the processors. So in summary, we believe that Twitter is a viable early indicator of campaign performance. Media drives 12% of revenue within the PC market, and Intel is a critical component of advertising, providing up to 32% of the sales effect. But as always, more data will deliver more insights, learnings, and actionability. Thank you very much.